Welcome to another BrikFam video.
MeisterDad here, and this week I will be showing you my first haul. So last week, as I mentioned, my son was born. I still have my wristband to show that he's not home from the hospital yet. But this was purchased from a town called Innisfil, Ontario, and the seller shipped this to me. The reason I bought this was because it contained a set I'd never seen before, and I didn't actually ever find anything about it. In fact, Bricklink doesn't even have an inventory for this set. It's quite obscure, and all it is a bucket with seemingly random parts in it. So I bought it for this reason and this reason alone. And of course it came with a second bin, which also is a basic set, regular parts. It's actually French. That's very interesting. I wonder if this was an auction or some sort of estate sale at some point. Well, let's move the box out of the way and take a look what's in here. Okay. I always enjoy finding something obscure that I've never seen before. And yes, just random basic parts. Probably more of the same in this bucket. Okay, that just pulls off like that. Alright, oh, Playmobil, of course. There's always something different. These are really good shape. These clear parts are actually quite clear with the horizontal line there. So I'll reposition my camera and we'll see what we can find in terms of content for these sets. Alright, so reposition that I could dump these out. Let's take a look here. See what we got. So this is the unknown inventory bucket. Oh, wow. Okay. A little bit wet for some reason. That's strange. Not too concerned about that, but... And of course, another golf tee. Always find a golf tee. Every set, every bin. So that's that. Let's see what's in here. Okay, that's what's in there. Here's another one. Okay, there's a catalog here from... doesn't say the year on here right off. Let's see. Well, it's to Stratford, Ontario, so it's definitely a Canadian issue. Another. I wonder if it's all wet in here too. Well, it seems pretty dry. Alright. There's a minifig in here. Pretty good. All these are really good shiny pieces. Very nice. I don't see anything other than this. So what I'm going to do off camera is try to recompile the set here. Obviously the parts are listed here on the side of the bin, so that shouldn't be too difficult to do. And once I have that, I'll see what I can do about the rest. I have sorted out the 1 by parts. Here's my 1 by 1s, 1 by 2s up in here, this area, 1 by 3s down here, 1 by 4s, 1 by 6, 1 by 8. All of these parts are sorted by mold number. Excuse me. Normally I'd call in my legal team to issue this disclaimer, but since they're all asleep right now, I'm going to have to do this on my own behalf. BrikFam in no way guarantees this method will successfully work for you and is not to be held responsible for triggering OCD tendencies, any mental or physical impairment, including but not limited to hair loss, property damage for rage issues, or anxiety attacks for not having your sets processed in this way. Thank you. And by mold number, I mean inside these bricks are little numbers that are often in groupings. And it is these numbers I use to determine what part probably belongs to the set I'm looking at. In this case, I'm only dealing with 2 sets. This one's a blank. So because there's only 2 sets, it's pretty easy to determine what's what. And of course, I go to the BrikLink inventory and I look up how many of each one there is. So for example, let me just get my inventory here. Blue requires 8 1x1 bricks. Sorry, that's black. Requires 8 1x1 bricks. So here I have black. All of these mold numbers for these 8 are similar. They're following this pattern. The only other black I have follows this pattern. And it turns out, I believe this one is, yes, this one is a side pip. So definitely does not belong to this group. But these 8 do. Likewise for blue, you're going to need 14 of those. All of them have the same format mold number, but I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 of them. So there's actually one missing. In order to complete this set, I should find another blue with that same mold pattern. Red requires 16. I actually have all 16 here. There is one over here also with a side pip. But these 16 follow the same pattern as black, which is different from that of blue, interestingly enough. Likewise, white requires 8. It follows this pattern here. And yellow requires 16. Yellow's a little bit interesting because we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, I'm including yellow in this because it has the same pattern as the blue. This grouping has the same pattern as white. And this is basically the same as the original pattern here up here, but it has an extra number in the corner. So yellow is all complete. So these are my 1x1s. Similarly for 1x2s, I look for the ones that have the most of the same pattern. So up here we have yellow. Let's see, yellow 1x2s. We're looking at 22 of those. I have 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And over here I have another group here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 15 and 7 make 22. So I'm going to conclude, based on this, that this 15 and this 7 are the ones that originally came with this set. The other ones are slight variations of the theme, but these are the 2 biggest chunks. And the, let's see, yes, for black, there's 8. Here's my black ones. I have 6 there, 2 there, and these individuals. Now, these 2 are very similar in pattern, so these are the 8 that I would choose. Whereas these other 4 here are quite different. I think one of them also has a side pip, if I remember correctly. Yes. So again, you can look for pips, but I find mold numbers also corroborate the pip formatting. 19 blue ones. So here's my biggest grouping of blue. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think there's 16 there. And then there's these 2, which I don't believe these are side pips. Oh yeah, this one is. And then this one here is not. But I still wouldn't choose it. I would stick with the 16 that I have. And then there's 2 more over here. These are side pips, so they would be also excluded. So I'd need 3 more to complete my blues there. Red needs 20. The same ones, the same pattern that the blue has is also in red. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. 17. So what would I choose for here? Pretty much, I don't know. I might choose a grouping of 3, perhaps this one, No, I think this one has a side pip as well. Let's see. Yes, I wouldn't choose that. This one's blank. And then this one over here is quite similar to the yellow, so I might go with something like that. So either I'll stick with the 18 I have in red, and or 17, sorry, whatever it is, and try to find ones of this pattern in my parts bins. White requires 10 1x2s, and so here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and perhaps these two. I don't know. I believe these might be side pips. Let me just check. Yes, so those would not work because this is from the late 80s. I think it's 87 or 89. Perhaps this one. I don't know. Again, I could just leave it out. Maybe that one. Maybe these ones in the yellow. I don't know. And then what else do we have? Yellow 22. We did that first. So as you can see, the largest groupings tend to be the ones that I would choose. So I'm going to skip to the end here and I'll go through every possible variation and show you what I ended up with the 1x bricks. And there we have it. All the 1x bricks that have been deemed part of this set are now in bag. The other ones here are extraneous according to this method. And there are supposed to be two 1x2 clear bricks. This one has a frosted or a horizontal line. This one does not. There's not enough data for me to decide on whether either of these should be included, but because these have a side pip and this is a late 80s set, it's hard for me to judge. I mean, it's possible. I don't know, but both of them have side pips and they're both different. I know that they're made in Canada and Denmark, but one from each? Hard to say. I mean, there's no reason for me not to include them, but at the same time, I did exclude a bunch of these guys for having side pips. So the method's not infallible. I do, have to go by what's here. And of course, you're probably wondering by now, why in the world am I doing this? Well, the reason is that I buy bulk lots, and because I buy the bulk lots, I can have a full range of different years of parts in there. I could have something from the 70s, the 80s, 90s, into the 2000s. And, other than, of course, the major color change around 2004, there's no real way to tell them apart. Of course, the side pip, the pet pen, and all that sort of thing, of course. But say between 85 and 2000, how are you going to know? And according to my experience, I was able to more or less figure out which part goes where based on the number of total parts that are in the bin. I don't necessarily do it as thoroughly as I'm showing you now. The main goal for this video is to try to compile the inventory for the missing set inventory, which is 9905? And I'd like to be able to see if I can get that going and maybe have a working inventory for that until something else comes up. So at this point, I'm going to pull up the plates and slopes and special parts, and then we'll move on to the 2x bricks. And here we have all the specialty parts and plates. The only piece that is actually missing from all of this is one of these trans clear slopes. And again, as you can see, it has a stud tip, and that would kind of further corroborate the 1x2s not being in here. Leave me a comment below if you disagree. I also want to mention that these 6 red plates here all have different mold numbers from these two, which happen to match those two. So I would pick these 4 as the part of the set here and leave these plates out. So I'm going to slide them out of the way. And again, for example, if I'm looking for a set from, late 80s, I'll try to find a mold number that matches this guy. I don't even see one here. Maybe there's no mold number. So Yeah, that's interesting. So if there is a mold number, if they exist, I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. Then I'd be able to use this as my anchor. So this is my anchor set for 1987, 89, whatever this is. Anything that comes across here, for example, the plate here, the blue one, there's 115 up there, should match or be very similar to, oh, it isn't. There's only a 3 up there. Very interesting. Well, some colors may not match as these guys did. Doesn't necessarily mean that these don't belong together. It means that different colors come different mold injectors. And of course, I only need 2 of these windows. I don't know that there's any difference here at all. I'll actually look at this before I started filming. So your guess here is probably as good as mine. I don't see any indicator as to what might make these different from each other. So I guess pick 2 and you're good to go. Everything else here, these all match. These match. All these match. Everything here goes together. All these 4 match. These 6 match. These 4. So all of these, of course, are the only ones here. So it's kind of a no-brainer. But again, this is excellent support for my hypothesis that mold numbers do play a role in identifying parts for a particular set. And now onto the 2x bricks. Oh, one more thing. Yes, these tires here. These guys here all have basically the same number. This one's by himself, and those 2 are similar. So I'm going to grab these 2 for the set because it only requires 2. And this minifig, of course, is the one that comes with the set, so he's also there. And that wraps up this specialty part. Onto the 2x bricks, which, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Well, that was easier than I thought. It turns out most of the bricks here have the side pip, which I'm going to conclude is part of the 9903. The rest of the bricks in the 2x are here, and they either have cross supports on the lower half here, or they don't. Now, judging by the age, in the late 80s, I'm going to go with no cross supports. I could be wrong. If anybody can correct me on that, you can leave a comment below and I'll see about that. The reason I mention it, because the white is the real problem for me. There's supposed to be 2 2x2s, 2 2x3s, and a 2x4. And the 2x2s and 2x3s are cross supported, whereas the 2x4 is not. And there's no other white pieces that is not side pip. Everything else more or less checks out. Let's see, the 2x2s should be 2 blacks. I got 3. Should be 4 blues. I only have 2. There's 3 down there. Should be 4 reds. I got plenty to choose from. 2 whites are missing. 4 yellows. And again, here's the cross supports, but I kind of reject those. I'd rather these. And then 2x3, I'm supposed to have 2, but I have 2 yellows. And so on and so on. Anyway, so I'm going to go with the non-cross support pieces. I also have some trans clear pieces that are side pip. These guys here are stud pip, but they were not in the 7716. And then there's my 2 1x2s again. These are the leftover 1x parts, a couple of windows and doors, a shutter, the extra wheels, a few plates that were flying around, and even a couple of minifigs and a spare set of legs. Now, as far as the 9903, there is a photo here. Let's see if I can get on that. There we go. Which has these large wheel parts. There's some windows and shutters. There's the trans clear bricks right there. There's a tree. And down here, you're going to need a door, and you're going to need some longer red bricks to cross that span, because there's a 4 brick or 4 stud span there, and you're going to have to tie it in with whatever this child has built. So there's also some 2x8 bricks. There's also the blue base down there, 4x12, 4x10, I believe, which will be that guy right there, and possibly you'll end up including those. And I really don't see that this set could not have the green bases. Now, if we were to count all of these pieces here that are not these and not those, we're looking at, what did I count it out to be? 623 pieces. Now, this is far in excess of the 465 claimed to be in the 9903. And that's not including this. Only the 2x bricks and the specialty parts over there and the wheels and so on. Now, I could do some more analysis on the molds here and figure out what's what, but I really, to conclude, what is it going to be, over 150 parts or so? How am I going to exclude 150 parts, and whether it has 1x's or not, I have no idea. I'm assuming it has 2x bricks because when I looked up this set on Toys Period, there was a comment in there. A fellow was saying that he would like to have the inventory because it's a great source of 2x bricks. Didn't mention anything else. Don't know what's in there. I don't see anything other than 2x bricks in the photo, other than the wheels and the tire and so on. So I'm going to go with the fact it's probably 2x bricks only in here. But again, there's so many more. There's over 100 more that I would have to exclude. I'm just going to go with the 623 and say it's a superset. That's as far as I can go. If you guys have anything to add to this, I'd appreciate having a comment, having some feedback on this. Do you want to see more videos like this where I'm taking apart bins and figuring out what's in them and making conclusions? Do you want to know more about my method? I'd appreciate being contacted. I'll be happy to share what I know. And of course, I will be doing other bins in the future, such as those found in episode 1, where I'll be doing some vintage pirates and castle sets and so on to figure out what's all in there. I have discovered on BrikLink that the non-cross supports pieces actually were discontinued in 1988. Whereas 1989 was when they started using the cross supports, and this set, 1661, was released in 1989. So I have changed my mind to go from cross supports, from non-cross supports to cross supports. And of course, the mold numbers here all match very well. And in fact, I don't have any extra parts here, whereas I would have had extra parts using the old style brick. So that is what I'm going to be putting in this set. And there we have it. Set 1661, 27 missing parts from the sorting. And in it goes. 1x1s, 1x bricks, 2x bricks, and specialty parts, and then the base plate. And as soon as I find the cover, I'll put that on. And over here we have our super set with 150 extra parts. See, that's how you pack it, Lego. That's how you pack it. And then we put the cover of that on. And I have my extra parts here. And then the extra 2x parts. And a couple of figs, which I will just add to the collection as a Prodisa. And, oh, classic space. Zeph will be happy about that. And this concludes another episode of the BrikFam. We at the BrikFam wish you farewell, and this is MeisterDad signing off.